Welcome to the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we, a business owner and an artist, discuss the business of art and the art of business. Hey friends, I'm Carl, founder of Epic Made, and I'm the host of the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we share our thoughts on creativity, art, and business. Past guests include Seth Waite with Schaefer, Robin Sloan, music executive behind the brands like Nirvana and Weezer, and Justin Johnson of BMP Creative. I'm forever grateful for the supporters of our podcast, and we are always looking for more sponsors. That said, Pixel Retentive is brought to you by the creative gurus at Epic Made. Epic Made is a creative studio that brings entertainment quality animation and illustration to brands that want to stand out in gaming, tech, and pop culture. We help companies tell stories that resonate with nerdy, imaginative audiences and turn viewers into communities. Visit getepicmade.com and let's collaborate on your next creative campaign. All right, so with us today, we have Kalika Sharma. Welcome to the show, Kalika.
Hey, Carl.
Really appreciate you being here. We're excited to have you.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Yeah. All right. So Kalika is a creative director, an NYU professor, and founder of AntidoteFX, now in its 23rd year. No big deal. 23 years. That's amazing. They tell moving stories through video and animation and teach others to do the same. Her career highlights include leading a 30-video web series translated into 15 languages for Marriott Bonvoy, and the motion design used across all worldwide for Brooks Brothers' 200th anniversary, and being post-production supervisor for the first iHeartRadio Music Festival in Las Vegas, while 5 months pregnant with twins, which is wild. That is quite the accomplishment. And obviously you've been busy in your career doing some pretty cool things. So really stoked to have you on the show. Really stoked to get into all the details. But before we get into the show, love the audience to get to know you a little bit better. So how long have you been in the industry? I guess 23 years, but any adjacent pieces to that? And then what project are you most proud of so far?
Wow. Okay. So I started in the 90s, actually. I studied film and animation at Rhode Island School of Design. And back then we were using a 16 millimeter Oxbury animation stand. And so we were shooting on film. And if you wanted to see what it looked like, you had to wait a couple of days, and then you would get a print and you would watch the print, and then it usually looked bad and you just have to do it all over again. And
I don't even know what any of that is. That's wild. Amazing. Okay.
Yeah. So I got my start animating directly under the camera, frame by frame. I would draw a little, I did it all on a chalkboard. And so I would draw a little bit, I would take a picture, I would erase that bit, draw a little bit more, take another picture. And yeah, it was amazing. I learned so much about animation timing by working direct under the camera. And then at the end of my stint at RISD, the Nickelodeon recruiters came, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really what I want. I want to go into preschool TV. And I didn't get an interview because my portfolio didn't have what they were looking for. Fortunately, they were really very, very kind and offered portfolio reviews in lieu of interviews for the people who wanted an interview but weren't at that level that they needed. And so they gave me a full portfolio review, and I took copious notes. And I've never been one to like fight when I want a job. I'm like, okay, I'm going to fight for the job, but I'm not going to fight the people who have the potential to give me this opportunity. And so I enacted all of their notes, and I contacted them back, and I said, I'm going to be in New York in a couple of weeks. I'd love to show you the revisions I made to my portfolio. And they were like, that's great. Yeah, come on in. And this was like the internet was very new at this point. So internet searches, I don't think we even had Google. It was 1999. But we did
Ask Jeeves back then or something, wasn't it? No, Alta Vista. Like sorry,
AOL with the dial-up.
Yeah. Oh my God.
We did have the phone, and we had email, and I think all of my correspondence with them was actually over the phone. And I went to Nickelodeon, I showed them my work. They gave me an animation test, and I had a couple of different interviews at Nickelodeon. And long story short, I ended up with a job there working in children's television. and I worked on the series Little Bill, which was created by Bill Cosby. Will never again see the light of day.
Yeah,
Thanks to Bill
yeah.
Cosby.
Little Bill's done some things.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about the things that Little Bill has done.
uh,
He was not
yeah,
appropriate. Um, and what I realized in working on series was that I really didn't like working on series. So it was just the same thing every single time.
right.
The same storylines, the same characters in the same clothes, the same 5-year-old having the same existential crisis. And I found it was really challenging and not fun for me to try to make it exciting every time. So I thought, maybe I'll try working in commercials. Commercials tend to have shorter timelines. I'm not going to be working on the same show for like a year or 2 years or
Right.
whatever. I mean, Little Bill for me lasted 2 years and 4 months. It was long.
Uh,
Yeah. Um,
that's a
and
lot of the same stuff every day, which is not great for creatives. So,
Well, it can be. And some of my friends were amazing at it. They brought so much life and heart to every episode that they had to animate. And it was like an adventure for them every single time.
mm,
They really resonated with the characters. And good for them. I was like, good for you. I'm so
sure.
glad that this worked for you. You are creative in a way that I am not. And
Yeah, I could
I
see that.
love variety. And, when I go to a restaurant, I always order the weirdest thing on the menu, within reason. If
Sure.
it says market price, I might think twice. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's like God only knows what that is in New York, right? Like, so,
yeah,
yeah.
for real. Um, but I like the weirdest thing on the menu. I like trying out different things. I like animating in different styles. And for the longest time, I would look at my portfolio and I would think like, wow, I have no style. I just kind of do whatever comes my way. And then I realized that it wasn't that I didn't have a style, it was that I was animating and I would have other people help me with the design aspect so that it aligned with the brand guidelines of whatever brand we were working with. So we were very flexible.
Mm,
And because the animation style and the design style was so flexible, we were able to collaborate with so many high-end brands over the years, including like Carnegie Hall and as you mentioned, Carl Brooks Brothers, Marriott Bonvoy. And then we got to work on like title sequences in between there. We got to work on some really cool PSAs for United Way of New York City. And every time it was a different style. And, if the project was great and we loved it, we would figure out ways to collaborate with this client more in the future. But generally, it was like a 6 to 8 week timeline, which was kind of my sweet spot. I loved that.
yeah.
Marriott was longer. It would not have been possible uh in this universe, which was pre-AI, to create 30 videos in 15 languages in 6 to 8 weeks. We created
No,
all of that was done in 16 months. Um,
that
I
makes
would
sense.
say, yeah, I would say that that's the project that I'm the most proud of because of just the sheer magnitude of it. It was the largest team I had ever assembled. It was the most deliverables I had ever had for a single client at a single time. We coordinated every aspect. I mean, from voiceover casting in 6 languages to
It,
directing voiceovers in 6 languages, some of
yeah.
which we
Wow.
didn't speak. I mean, we had a native German speaker on the team and we had a native Chinese speaker on the team, but they weren't always able to be present on those calls. And then we worked on the scripts with the team at Marriott. Every video pretty much had its own group of stakeholders that we interviewed and gathered facts. We did a fact finding mission for each of those different videos and then crafted a
Wow.
script that spoke to that specific aspect of the Marriott Bonvoy loyalty program. And then every bit of artwork that was designed for that series was bespoke. We did not use a single bit of stock.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, and while they
That felt
did,
great. I love that.
yeah, and they did give us support on the character design aspect. So they had a character designer who they wanted to work with. We creative directed the character designer, and we created. I think it ended up being like 500 different hands for the characters to have because we weren't happy with how the hands were working in the animation. So, yeah,
Wow,
that was wild.
that's wild.
Yeah,
That reminded
yeah,
me a little bit of we did an NFT project a couple years back where we had to build a generator, right? So like the way some of these like PFP projects where like your board apes and that sort of stuff, like you have to create all the assets, and
yeah.
then each type of trait has a different rarity. So when someone mints an NFT, it generates a random like, hey, it has this fur, these eyes, these. But you have to illustrate all those pieces, right? So
Yeah.
we had like 40 of every single category of like 8 different categories. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't hundreds of hands, but it was like 40 hands and weapons and swords. It was really cool. It was all like super nerdy
Wow.
fantasy stuff, but that was really fun. So
It's like the ultimate
yeah,
Mr. Potato Head.
yeah, exactly. Just like that. And then people, it's very collectible in the way it's launched. And I just, I was sad to see like NFTs boom too, and then like get such a bad rap because they're so powerful in proving, origin of who created what and when and what's the
Yes.
value of something and the record of the transaction. So I do think that's just gonna boom back up eventually. But I digress here on my little sidebar. But so
Yeah.
what I really wanted to get into with you, Kalika, is this about this idea of like being able to pivot and understand how like I mean, you and I have been in business a long time, right? And like
Hmm.
seeing like, and you started before me, clearly a little bit at least, because I never messed with. I wasn't in animation back then. I was in just pure graphic design, and but I've never developed any film in my life, right? Like I was probably just at the peak of that. Like I went to college in 2003, so like everything had already turned digital, but like
Hmm.
I was just at the beginning of the internet, was kind of still like in its infancy, but we had some high speed stuff. But I just all of the changes that go on and are now we've seen evolve and go through. And we just talked a little bit about AI, and that was the thing or sorry, NFTs. That was the thing for a while, but now it's like how do we look at like how do we use AI? How do we use it ethically? Like how do we pivot ourselves? How do we not use it and go, hey, we don't use it and this is why, and our stuff is this thing now that's bespoke. It's like a film photographer now in a digital world, right? Like that has a place and people want that
Sure.
sometimes, right? So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I'll throw it back to you, but yeah, the pivots and exciting times of being creative.
Yeah. And I think that you and I have both experienced these shifts happening, right? Like in the beginning, we didn't have stock photography. We didn't have stock illustrations or stock graphic designs. We had to create everything from scratch. And then when they came out with these CD-ROMs of like graphic icons that you could buy, it was like $300 for
Yeah.
one CD-ROM that had maybe like 500 graphic designs on it. And they were of varying quality and of varying styles, but that was the cheapest you could get it. And then you still had to create your overall design using that material. And then we got the stock websites. And then, now we have the AI helping us. And it's not any different than these other evolutions that have happened in other creative industries. Like I saw this great interview with Walter Murch, which was part of this virtual summit that I got to speak on. One of the interviews was with me. I think they wanted to hear from somebody who is in that messy middle. Like
Yeah.
we're too young to retire, but we're too old to pivot completely.
Yeah.
Like and just
Oh,
okay, I'm gonna just learn a completely new discipline. And it's not just that we're like too old to do it in the sense that we can't learn it. Sure, we could learn it, but we're so obsessed with this thing that
yes.
we have spent all of this time learning that we want to find a way to make it work. And
Yep.
they had this interview with Walter Murch, who was like, he's won like 8 Oscars, I think, and he was the editor on Brokeback Mountain, but he was always on that cutting edge. So his first day of USC Film School, they it was when television came on the scene. And so people weren't going to the movies anymore. And they announced on
Wow.
his first day of film school, they said people aren't really going to the movies anymore. And the numbers are really down in the past year. If anybody would like to quit film school right now on the first day. We will give you 100% of your tuition back, and you can go and study something completely different. No harm, no
Wow.
foul. And he said that like a decent number of his classmates went and did that, and now they're in real estate or they're in commodities or whatever. Like they've
Crazy.
completely shifted. And he's like, nah, let me see what happens here. And he
Yeah.
stayed. And then
Good.
when they shifted from editing on film to Avid, he was one of the first people to adopt Avid. When they started shifting from Avid to Final Cut 7, not 10, he shifted to Final Cut. And so always being on that cutting edge of whatever that new thing was really helped him always stay current
Yep.
and competitive in his field. So I get the resistance to AI. I think that there is a place for it. I don't
Yep.
think it's ethical yet, and I don't think it's particularly good yet for finished products because it doesn't take feedback the way a human takes feedback. And it
Yes.
tends to introduce like a bunch of hallucinations and tangents, like, once you get one part of the image working correctly, for example, like, okay, the lady looks perfect, don't touch the lady, let's change the prop that's in her hand to flowers. And it changes the prop that's in her hand to flowers, gives her an extra finger, and puts a hat on. And you're like,
Yep.
I didn't want a hat, I told you the lady was perfect. Like,
And
what
now
part
she's
of that?
cross-eyed. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Or
yeah,
she grows
yeah,
another hand.
yeah.
And so I've heard it described as arguing with a very stubborn toddler.
Mm,
And I don't think that's too far off the mark. I think that it's really good for pre-visualization. Like, okay, we are in the brainstorming phase. Let's see how many different ways we can show the letter B made out of grass. And we just let AI do its thing and give us like 500 different options for how the letter B could be made out of grass. And then we
100%.
and then we pick whichever one we like and we recreate it in such a way that it's revision friendly for our clients.
Yeah. I find that it eviscerates creative block. Like if you have a generalized idea, you just
Mhm.
start pumping stuff in there. And it's like, and it might make 50 things that you hate, but you know why you hate each of them. And all of a sudden
Yes.
you have a clear vision of what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of control issues there, a lot of ethical issues, and just shout out to the Graphic Artist Guild. Those are things we're working on
Oh,
at the Graphic
good.
Artist Guild, and we're actually putting out our own ethical guidelines to using AI or not. So that's definitely something
Oh,
that people should look into. We have links to that from the new book that we just put out, the 17th edition of the pricing and ethical guidelines, which is
nice.
yeah, yeah. Always got to shout the guild out, but yeah, this is an amazing resource for the
Yes, I
business
have
side of
I have an older
creativity.
version of that.
Oh, good, good. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I've got 5 of them like in a row over there from since I've been in design school. I just get them, but yeah. So you're absolutely right. There's a lot of problems with the data set, the ethical sides of it. We could spend a bunch of time talking about that, but we don't maybe need to on this podcast. But happy to if you want. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think. Go
Some
ahead.
other time for sure, but
Hmm.
I would like to at some point talk to you about the how the graphic artists guild is dealing with this whole AI issue. And because it is concerning how
It
people
is.
are using it and what is being allowed out there.
Yeah.
um and I mean, the little guy, the artist, is definitely hurting as a result. The copyright is no longer sacred. And
Yeah, so that's the big thing, right? Like the guild has always fought for copyright protections, which protects artists, but it also protects Disney and protects the big corporations too.
mhm,
Like you need to be able to own intellectual property in the things that you create, either as an individual or with your organization.
mhm.
And they're trying to push now for these like fair use arguments, which would essentially eviscerate like copyright for, oh, well, we just fair use put it into some AI. Now we can steal all your trademarks and patents and copyrights because it's all AI fair use. Like, no, that can't go down like that. But so some of the things that we're seeing that we're kind of encouraging, both me as an individual and the guild, we are separate, but we do align in a lot of places. But like, there are opt-in data sets that people are building now where the work wasn't stolen and the people were given compensation credit and consent to be a part of the data set. And those then become ethical data sets to utilize this tool. This tool is not inherently bad or good. Like you said, like we've spent our whole life becoming these amazing artists, and regardless of that, it's so frustrating for us to see people be able to get really close to what we struggled to get to for years and years. Even if it's 80% of the way there, all of a sudden, like with a little prompt, like that is frustrating. But the people that really can utilize these tools on the level to create finished, polished work are still the best artists in the world. They're still the people that could do it before. Now we're finding ways to do it faster, right? So creating
Mm-hmm.
lore models for me is like the big thing that I'm really obsessed with now, and
Oh,
trying to
okay.
understand like how do we build out, how do we come up with a character for an animation, right? We pick the style, we pick all the ways that we want to portray this character, and we build a lore model around Joe, and now we can put in a sketch or even just pose a dummy model and go, this is Joe, boom, reskin it, and it knows exactly what Joe's supposed to look like, and it works, right? Not
Oh,
like it sort of works, like, and we're
okay.
still on that cusp. Like it sort of worked like a year and a half ago. It's getting more and more consistent, but it still needs help. It needs tweaking and that kind of stuff. So, but this is all like, we all have to be aware of these technologies and understand their strengths and weaknesses, and if we want to use them, and if not, and then how to position yourself as a creator so that people understand the value that you're bringing. Like some people, like I'm no AI at all ever, and there's value to that. First and foremost, the value is like we don't know what's copyrightable and what's not at this phase in the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's still like wide open. There's still like cases that are open. It's very much a muddy gray area. So
Mm-hmm.
if you absolutely unequivocally need something to be protectable, like you probably don't want any AI involved, right?
Sure.
So yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was my soapbox. Sorry.
Good soapbox. I appreciated that.
Yep.
Yeah. And we're running into this with our clients as well, where, they will supply us with something that's AI. They'll say, okay, so this is the mock-up for the phone screen that's going to appear in our movie. And we found these headshots that are going to go into the phone screen. And we're like, okay, where did you find these? Oh, well, I generated this one using Adobe AI, and this one is, from my camera roll, and that one's from stock or whatever. Well, how does your lawyer feel about you using AI? And they're like, oh, I hadn't
Great
thought
question.
about that. And then they go to their lawyer, and then their lawyer comes back and it's like, don't you dare use AI. I can't afford to like defend you in a case so stupid where you were just too lazy to go through your camera roll or take a picture of
Yep.
somebody in your household to use for this purpose. Like just do the thing yourself, and then we won't have to worry about that aspect. So it has happened a few times now where the client was like, no AI. We're like, copy. All right, not going to do it.
There's also this weird problem that's happening now. It's like, hey, we rendered this person. I typed in, I need a beautiful woman,
Yes.
45, and it looks like somebody. And now it's like, now you've got to pay them for their
For their
likeness, or they could sue
likeness.
you, right? Because you can't say it wasn't by, like, who knows, right? So it's like a weird thing. Same thing with like the voiceover stuff, and like there's just a lot
Mm-hmm.
of new problems with this, right? Which
Yeah,
is interesting. So
it
so,
is.
so is there a mindset that you think is important here? Because, like you said, you've seen so much change. I've seen so much change, and I think like my design professor, rest in peace, Robert McCullough. He is like this crotchety old man by the time I'd studied with him, but he'd been in the creative space for 40 years. Like he knew everything, like about, like,
Mhm.
you'd think someone of his generation at the time wouldn't know anything about computers, but this guy'd been on top of it the whole time, right? So like all
Sure.
of his peers were either like, oh, I'm not into computers, like, or like they were gurus, right? Like it's
Hmm.
because he constantly stayed with it and knew like this was going to be relevant. But he could still paint his ass off. Like that's where he started, right? Like
Right.
before computers entirely.
Yeah.
But now he like was a graphic designer and owned, it was just interesting. So I always found that inspiring, right? So yeah.
Yeah. I think the difficulty comes when people try to take shortcuts. So,
Yep.
like you said, Carl, the people who are going to be able to take AI into the next level of actually creating meaningful content that is believable and that keeps people's attention and that's intelligent is going to be those people who are trained properly in creative fields. And being trained properly, honestly, it does mean going back to painting your ass off and to life drawing and understanding perspective and understanding how to trace something and how to make a circle consistent with a pencil and paper. And when and I have a lot of experience teaching. I've been teaching kind of alongside my creative career the whole time almost. I started teaching in 2005. And back then I was teaching animators at Pratt Institute. And God bless them. The students that come out of that school are just amazing. I didn't even know
Yeah.
about the school when I was applying to art schools. And I wish I had, because that place, there's something really special about it. All of the students who I've taught from Pratt have this amazing combination of an incredible work ethic and humbleness tempered with talent.
Mm.
And it's just such a winning combination. And I don't know how they've managed to keep the students all kind of in that same vibe. Maybe it's the location, that it's not in the best neighborhood in Brooklyn. Maybe it's the campus, that it's just really weird. And when you're walking through it, there's like these giant, bizarro sculptures all over the place. Um, but it's really special. And the students who I taught there, they were traditionally trained artists, or they were willing to become traditionally trained artists, and they were learning the craft of animating on the computer using 2D animation tools, 2D illustration and design tools alongside their traditional art trajectory. And so I've carried that over to everywhere else that I've taught, right? So, when I'm teaching video editing, even I teach the basics, like, okay, we're going to have these different camera angles and cut between them, and how do you write a script, and you have to have a script. Why are you editing without a script? With
Right.
animation, yes, I teach a 2D digital animation class, so we're using digital tools, but I'm teaching traditional techniques. And the problem, circling back to your original question, that I've been finding, and it's not become a huge problem yet, but I generally get 1 to 2 students a year who just want a shortcut, and they
Yeah.
just want to fast forward ahead to being great at animation. I'm like, hang on, guys. First, we need to draw. Then we need to learn how to make those drawings move. We need to understand what it looks like when somebody turns their head. How do you draw that? How does it look in perspective? And they're like, yeah, so I found this distortion tool. And I'm like, a distortion tool is not going to work on a realistic drawing that's done in perspective. You can't just smush it in 2 dimensions. And they just start using all of these digital tools as shortcuts, and they're like, yeah, so I have this great idea. I'm going to learn everything about 2D animation and 3D animation using AI tools by the time our finals due. And I'm like, dude, our finals due in 2 weeks. You're going to
Yeah.
learn 2 disciplines that take people an entire lifetime to learn each in 2 weeks. That's completely illogical. And so that
Yeah.
attitude, that this is going to empower me to make anything possible in record time, and it's going to look good and people are going to care to watch it, is very dangerous, I think. Not in the sense of like I'm creating a rocket ship that's going to explode, or I'm going to kill
Yeah.
somebody on the surgery table, but like, you know bad art is its own form of tragedy.
It is. It is. And there is this world we're barreling into where it's like we have these AI tools like stripping out people's thoughts that they need to learn the basics, like the basics of storytelling, the basics of just good composition, like how
Yeah,
does make something look nice on the screen, just a frame, one frame, let alone like getting into good cuts and good storytelling and all the other stuff that
yeah,
goes into it. So we're like we're if we lean too heavy on these tools and the basics get like basically destroyed and forgotten about, like the actual stuff that these AIs feed on is going to be more crap work that was generated with people that don't know what they're doing. This is all going to degrade. It's going to
Hmm.
really become bad, both for AI and the fact that the artists have to survive this whole spot. Like when AI really boomed the year last summer, not the summer that just passed, the summer before that, like we had a huge dip. Like people like corporate America at large is like, oh, we don't need creatives. We can just hire somebody to punch some stuff in some AI. And they realized really quickly it was all garbage because you
Yes.
need people that knew what good work looks like. And they didn't like
Hmm.
a non-trained person might not even see that this hand has 6 fingers and it goes all the way to production, and that happened a lot. Like it was
Oh
like,
yeah.
wow, and
Yeah.
that's just the little things, right? Like being trained in graphic design and understanding typography. Like I look at something and just see bad layouts all the time. Like they're like people don't even get trained in typography and kerning and leading and spacing and all the different pieces that you need to have a good layout of just the fonts and the type on the page, let alone like when you start getting into actual animation and moving graphics, which everything has digital now. So it's like you have all these married things coming together, and that was one of the things that we stood up on early on, was that like, hey, we understand graphic design and motion. Like this is going to look good and be laid out well and have good visual
Hmm.
hierarchy. So yeah, uh, we
Yeah.
can't skip the basics. They're still going to be massively important
Oh,
as
for
we move
sure.
through this. So yeah.
For sure. Yeah, it was interesting. I got to speak as part of a debate on human spark versus AI smarts at the AI Summit in New York City.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, Shireen Strausberg-Drucker, who was
Yep.
on your podcast, she and I were on the human side. And then we had three people on the AI side who, some of the stuff they were saying, the moderator was even like, well, clearly this individual doesn't care about HIPAA laws. And, like
Yeah.
this kind of basic privacy stuff that they
Right.
didn't seem to care about. And the third person on the human side was actually the head of AI for a marketing company. And we were like, is this
Oh,
rigged? Why did they put him on our side? He had such incredible insights as to how AI gathers data and spits it back out. And one of the things that he brought to our attention was that AI is just averaging everything that's in its data set. It's
yep.
not capable of creating brand new ideas. That's the human spark that you need. It's the new ideas that are going to grow that into something cool. But if all you're
1,000%.
doing is recycling the shit that's in the AI large learning model, you're just going to keep getting average products. Like, look at the Tesla car, not the truck, but the Tesla car. It looks like an average of all the sedans that have ever existed up until that point. There's
Yes.
nothing special about it aside from its logo that looks like the female reproductive system. Have you noticed that? It looks just
Throw
like
the
a
shade. I'm here
yeah,
for it. Throw
it
the
looks
shade.
just like a uterus and a couple fallopian tubes, and there's the ovaries. Like
There it
you'll never
is.
look at it the same way again.
The Tesla uterus logo. Well, you heard it here.
So yeah, I mean that's all it's going to do. It's just going to keep recycling old crap, and
A
you
hundred
know,
percent. Or they have innovative old crap like the cyber. I can't see a cyber truck on the road just like that person's probably a dick. Like like, like I'm just like, why would you buy that? Like it looks absolutely ridiculous, and like the whole everything about like I'm not like big on like consumerism and like oh I gotta have these brands to say something about myself, but some brands just definitely say something about you, and I feel like that's what I'm at this point. But yeah,
a friend of
it's
mine described the Tesla truck really well. She was like, it feels like when people are learning how to use a 3D program and they've just learned how to make primitives, and then they just learned how to tweak a couple of points on the primitive, and that's it. So they started with a cube and they went boop, and then they're like, I'm done. It's a
yeah,
car, you know?
yeah. That truck took 20 minutes to design with a rectangle base, a cute, yeah. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But what I did want to mention in AI, right? Like we talked about the ethics and the data set and the average of all that. But when you understand and master this technology, and there are people doing this, I've seen people doing some really amazing stuff that are world class creatives first. And then they're like,
Yes.
now we're going to get obsessed with AI, right? Like
Uh-huh.
I've seen Swarovski, Aaron, and her company, they've been doing some amazing stuff.
Okay.
But so leaning into like, how can we do really, really cool stuff that would have taken 100 people and I would never have a 100-person team. So how can my team of 10 do something that we could have never done before, really own it, really put all our creativity into it, and then leverage as much as we can this technology to do all the things and help us go quicker, better, faster, but never undermining our own creativity, right? So that's
Hmm.
like the secret sauce when you start moving forward, when you're like, hey, how do I take this technology and mitigate the negative parts about it and utilize it for the best things possible? How do we create, and my wife and I are working on something right now where we're creating our own worlds and we're doing our own things and like
Hmm.
seeing what that can be like, but never compromising our own creativity and our integrity. Like, how do you build your own large language model? How do you build your own
Yeah,
visual generation data set and a LoRa model to make sure that you're in control of all the little details? So these are the things I'm experimenting with, trying to figure out when is that appropriate to incorporate back into Epic Made, my business, and when is that legally smart? All of the things, right? So, but like
sure.
being right there on the edge is important, right? Because like that's where the innovation happens, and that's where you can position yourself as someone special, at least for a brief moment in history, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
seeing
So
people use AI in programming for motion design. So one of the things that really speeds up the motion design process is being able to use scripts and plugins in After Effects or whatever program they're using in order to enhance the animation that they're making or make it
right,
easier to arrange elements on the page and things like that. And so this one creator, Jake Bartlett, he goes by Jake in Motion on YouTube. He did something called the 12 Days of Scriptsmiths on LinkedIn, and it was genius because he created 12 unique scripts for After Effects that accomplish things that, other scripts don't quite do the same way as this. And he wouldn't have been able to create all of those scripts as cleanly as he did if it hadn't been for the AI that he has been building to allow him to create clean code that can accomplish these things. And he's like, I'm not a coder, but I want to do these things that I need code for. And if I sat there and learned all of the code, it would take me forever, but I've figured out a way to train it to do what I want. So
you
I
know
think that's really powerful.
I love it. And I think there's something kind of amazing about having a computer write code for you. Like
Yeah,
it feels like, I hired this Greek person to do some Greek stuff for me. Right? Like
yeah.
it sort of feels like
It's
that
like
to me. Like,
translation.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, no, and I love it. Like the infinite possibilities, right? Like I have a 3D printer now and I can draw and I can paint and I can sculpt, but
Mhm.
and I hand paint, that's an Epic Made logo. I'm
Oh,
finishing it up still,
nice.
but I hand did it with a 3D pen, right? Like
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
manual ones, right? It took like 30 hours of me just like squirting this stuff on a table. But,
Right. It's
you
like a
know,
glorified glue gun, right?
yeah, it
Like,
is. It really
yeah.
is. So, but the idea here, though, for me is that like I have lots of ideas, and I identify as a very creative, artistic person, right? So, how can I now bridge the gap? So I've had ideas for years that it's like, oh well, I don't know how to 3D model. Like I'm not a 3D modeler personally. Like so, but now I can take a sketch, put it into AI, have it generate a 3D model,
Mhm.
and then I can take that model and if I do it 20 times, like 18 of them suck. Right, we're
Yeah,
still there on some
yeah,
of them, but then now I can learn some basic stuff in Blender and modify this and 3D print a thing. Right, so I can
yeah,
take things from my head, sketch it out, take it through these, in between softwares, and still understanding all the foundational things. I just never
sure.
learned that tool. So now these tools are different, right? So like I know
Hmm.
how to sculpt, but like not in Blender, right? Like so,
Hmm.
but give me a block of clay, right? Take 5 photographs or 10 photographs or whatever. They can scan that in and then 3D print things and make multiples of it, and or you can go
It's
cast and
awesome.
I don't know. So I'm just like having fun with all this stuff now, and I love the idea of like multiple mediums coming together and being able to. I don't know. I'm just so ridiculously excited about these tools,
Hmm.
outside of some of the concerns we talked about with like some of the ethical ways some of them were made, and obviously some of the legal issues. But like outside of that, like I love the idea. I feel like I'm unlocking more of my creativity, and the options of things that I can do and make now are just going through the roof. and I'm just beside myself. I don't have enough time in the day to create all the things I want to make, like,
That
which
is
is exciting.
really, that is so interesting, Carl, because I find I'm going the opposite way, actually. Like,
Oh
I have
wow,
had since that, maybe the AI summit had the opposite effect on me, because I decided that the only thing I hate more than AI are people who treat AI as if it's the second coming of the Lord. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, these AI evangelists are insane.
yeah.
So now all I want to do is create things with my hands. So I'm painting, I'm drawing, I'm sketching, I'm, making ink patterns and like Zentangles and whatever. Like I'm just doing all kinds of stuff with my hands because I made a whole series of like handmade holiday cards this year.
I
Because
love that.
yeah, because I was like, all right, I ran out of the other ones and I need an excuse to make stuff. So
That's amazing though. And look, that's what it all does. Like it's like it inspires you to see like, well, I don't even want to touch this. This isn't my flavor, right? And
yeah.
then, but I also like I had that same experience. Like I've been live streaming for forever and doing
Yeah.
digital art for forever. So like I painted a painting the other day, like
Oh, that's
by hand,
great.
just like I'm on it, right? And then
Yeah.
so
Is
then
that
I
watercolor?
got yeah, it's watercolor markers and watercolor pencils.
Oh,
And
nice.
then I took it in digital and I drew on top of it and I made it into this other like really cool digital piece because I got afraid I was gonna fuck it up. Like I was like, oh no, I don't want to mess it up, especially watercolor. Like it's
Oh
very
yeah.
unforgiving.
It's
You gotta like gesso it back out and redo the whole section, and that just that doesn't work. But yeah,
yeah. I'm
but
I'm always working with my daughter on that. Like she's a budding artist. She's 14. Well, they both are, my daughter and my son. My daughter loves to paint and draw, and her from the time she was little, I never let her just like draw a line and be like, that sucks. I'm gonna get a new sheet of paper. I was like, no, you're gonna work with it. You're gonna figure out
yeah,
a way to adapt that line that you hate into something that you're gonna love in the end. Keep working at it. And
that's
you know,
amazing.
it's like a life skill, right? Like just
Oh,
because
it
the sauce
is.
doesn't turn out the way you wanted it to doesn't mean you can't add stuff to the sauce or boil it down or put vegetables in it or whatever to make it a better sauce.
Yeah, embrace the happy little accidents, as Bob Ross would say, right?
Yes.
Um, yeah, my dad was that way with his artwork. It was just like chaos. He's like, you just keep going until it feels right. Like you don't like whatever, you don't like, don't abort it. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
So in this same vein, like, so I'd start the thing and I took a picture of it. I took a digital and then like I printed it out really big. I just realized that was on the back wall. And now I'm going to repaint over this
Wow.
with like glow in the darks and metallics and like, so like I love the idea of marrying all the technology, the traditional, the physical. Like, how can I do things that are just weird and different and unique and like I don't know, like don't get stuck on things. It's just like I don't want to like oh, I don't do digital or I only do digital. Like I want to like what happens if I do both? Like what
Yeah.
characteristics come out? What unique things can happen from there?
That's a
I
cool
don't know.
idea. I like that.
Yeah,
I
so
like that. And
yeah.
I've been known to do stuff like that in the past. Right now I'm being very either or
That's all
artistically.
right.
Like but yeah, I love that because you could paint something really small and love it so much that you want it on your wall, but you want to add a bunch of stuff to it, but you don't want to mess up the little thing that you made. So why
Yep.
not scan it in, work on it digitally, print it back out again, add more crap to it on top. That's amazing.
Love it. Yeah, yeah. I did a thing, and I know we're getting close to time here, but I did a thing where like a client asked me to do a commission for them, and they do like custom teeth for people, like they build like porcelain teeth. So
I
he
love
sent me
that.
a picture of a 3D model that he uses, and I took that, put it in Photoshop, blew it up real big, and
Yeah.
played with it, added a bunch of crazy colors and paints, and did like 8 hours of Photoshop work. Printed it out on a 7 foot canvas and then painted over top of that for another 3 hours. So like it went from like 3D model to 3D print to digital photograph to digital painting to physical print to like
Wow.
paint. So like that was like just a fun journey. So,
Oh, I
anyways,
gotta
but
see that. I gotta
yeah,
see
yeah,
that. That's
I'll
awesome.
share that with you for sure. Cool. Well,
Cool.
we are definitely at time here, and this has been really fun,
Oh,
Kalika. I'm super
same.
pumped. Um, so look, before I let you go, is there anyone or anything in your career that you like to shout out to the audience? Maybe a mentor, valuable resource, or favorite client?
So I have quite a few mentors. Whenever I have a new mentor, I'm like, I just wanted to let you know I'm seeing other people. I know you are too. Let's just be open about this, our open
I love
relationship.
it.
But one of the mentors who has helped me the most in my life and my career is Zach Arnold. and he runs a group called the Arnold Academy for Creatives. He was one of the editors on the Netflix series Cobra Kai, and
Oh,
yeah, the way he got that gig was fantastic. He wrote to the show creators and he said, Karate Kid was my Star Wars, and started it that way. And his program has really evolved over the years, and I've been there for, I don't know, 5, 6 years now. And it really has taught me a lot about work-life presence, because work-life balance is a myth, and
yeah.
how to be fully present for my clients and my work when I'm working, and how to be fully present for my family and my friends when I'm not. And that's been an ongoing struggle for me as a recovering workaholic. Um,
Yep.
and he's really helped me put things in perspective. So I would say that he's been really instrumental in my creative journey, even though I don't study art with him. I study life with him.
That's all right. You got to figure that out. And each part, sometimes you need help with one thing more than the other, but being able to talk to someone who can relate to the whole thing, I think, has a lot of value there for sure.
Yeah.
Um, Want to give a big shout out to Shireen Strasberg, who we mentioned a little bit earlier. She connected me with Kalika. She's an awesome motion designer as well. God, her company's eluding me off the top of my head. Do you know the name
It's
of her studio?
86th Street Creative,
That's right. Yep,
I
86th Street
think.
Creative.
Yeah.
She was on a previous episode with us, and is also a super cool human being. So definitely check that out. But so we've been talking with Kalika Sharma. You can check her out at AntidoteFX.com. But if listeners want to follow up with you directly, is there a better place to go?
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to make a quick correction. It's 87th Street Creative, not
Or Shireen,
86th.
yeah, sorry, Shireen. So Shireen is 87th Street Creative. I got it. We got that for the record on here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So if
Um,
anyone would like to reach out to me, I'm on LinkedIn as Kalika Sharma. My company name is Antidote FX, and you can read more about my company and my wonderful team at antidote letter F letter X.com. And I'm also on Instagram. So at Antidote FX. This has been
awesome.
really fun, Carl. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, my pleasure. Really appreciate you, Kalika. And thank you, everyone, for showing up and listening. And we'll see you all next time. Take it easy.
We really hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe to join us on our next journey through the world of art and business on the Pixel Retentive Podcast.